Hey there. So I have been thinking that I want to do things a little differently on this channel. I know I always say that, but the algorithms are always changing. And when things don't do really well, you kind of have to shift. I'm still going to do Savoring Her Story. Whether it does well or not, I think it's really important that we remember women who, do great things. Women who just defy the status quo when they see that it's not right, when it's not good. So yes, I'm going to continue doing Savoring Her Story for sure, without a doubt. But I'm going to do it a little different. So the YouTube algorithm is changing. No, it has really changed. It has changed, and my channel has just totally crashed. I think also since like the American elections, things are different, and people are consuming different kinds of content. Like they're either out there in the outrage machine, doom scrolling all the time, or they're just looking to chill. And I have this feeling, the way that I've been doing Savoring Her Story has been a little, it's kind of a documentary style. Maybe some people feel like it's having homework, maybe. And what they really want is just like human connection and to feel just connected. I mean, we just want that. We just want human connection so bad right now. So while I still want to tell women's stories, I want to make this a place of connection, of like girlfriend time. I hear that the kind of videos that are doing well are like get ready with me's and like make dinner with me's. What? I don't know. But I hear those are the kind of like those just like hang out with me kind of videos. So instead of like me being a talking head and telling you a story, or serious story, I'm just going to cook like what I'm making tonight. And what I make is going to be inspired by the women that we're talking about. But I'm just going to be really casual. Just like chatting about like a friend of ours who we think is really cool. And we're trying to figure out what makes her so cool. Something like that. Today we're talking about Lucille Ball, and we're going to make some food that she would have made. In fact, we're going to make her goulash, but not exactly her goulash. And I'll tell you why. When her and Desi Arnaz got married, they bought a house in Chatsworth. And that's in California. That's in the valley, that like the San Fernando Valley. I didn't realize this, but it's like a mile from where I used to live. In fact, I used to go to an elementary school that was just like 5 houses away. Although I was in school in the late 70s and they were there in the 50s. So like, no, I mean, they weren't even there. It was like, they actually tore down the ranch and everything and built a new house. But I just didn't realize that I was so close to where she lived with Ricky. And not Ricky, Desi. It's so funny. I can't parse. I keep calling her Lucille Ball Lucy. I keep calling Desi Ricky because in my mind, it's the same. And I'm going to talk about that later, because I think that is germane to their story and why I Love Lucy was so successful. They bought a house in Chatsworth. It was about half an hour from Hollywood, and it was really out in the boonies. Like my parents say that when they moved there back in the early 70s, it was very rural. It was like country. It was just out in the boonies. And by the time that I left there in the 80s, it was pretty developed. But back then, it was very rural. They had a ranch house. They had like a cow. They had a whole bunch of dogs. They had a pool, and they would throw these like raging parties that had like all like Hollywood elite there. And at this time, Lucy was she was successful in terms of money. Like she was making a lot of money on her films, but she was still kind of a B actress. They would throw these ragers and people would like crash and stay overnight, and she would make a whole bunch of goulash for her friends. And it was a terrible mid-century recipe. It was just terrible. I'm not going to do exactly her recipe because I don't like to throw out food. I'm gonna make a better goulash with what I have on hand. It's gonna be also vegetarian and it's gonna be gluten-free. Before that, I want to make a dessert.
For dessert tonight, we will be having vegan panna cotta with blueberry sauce and then gently molded into a fish.
Okay, so let's get started with the panna cotta. So, in true Lucille Ball fashion, I'm going to put the panna cotta in a fish mold. I don't know if it's going to work. I'm not even sure if it's. I've never made panna cotta in my life, and I'm making it vegan, and I'm making it with agar because gelatin is not vegan. Agar is from marine. It's from a marine plant, and it kind of gelatinizes things, kind of like gelatin does. I think a little firmer. But I wanted to make, as we talk about her early life, I wanted to make something like gelatinous because people, like, she kind of came of age in like the 20s and 30s and in mid-century, and people were loving their gelatinous delights. So I have this cookbook called Every Woman's Cookbook, and it's from 1922. And I think it came from like a women's club, the National League for Women's Service. Like back then, they had these like clubs where women would, like wealthy women, would go. And that's where they would like exercise or just hang out. And they would get their hair done, like everything that they needed, they could do at the club. And then they would hang out, So, in the show, Mrs. Maisel, the fabulous Mrs. Maisel, marvelous Mrs. Maisel. When she goes to her calisthenic classes, she's at a club. She's at one of those clubs. So they were very big in like the 20s and 30s. And I actually, when I lived in Oakland, in the Bay Area for a couple of years, I actually went to one of those clubs in this old turn of the last century. It was a special event to watch The Woman, which is a film from like the 30s, an all-star film that featured only women. And so it was a really fun event, and everybody dressed up like from the 20s and 30s. And they were surprised that we were there. Like, I guess I learned about it from like a Facebook post, but it was really only supposed to go to like people in the club, so we kind of crashed it. But it was still fun. And then they tried to get us to become members of this club. So I guess it was running again. But anyway, that's what this book is from. It's from one of those clubs. And look at this. Okay, jellied vegetable salad. 10 slices of stuffed olives, 2 cups chopped celery. It's got cucumber, dill pickle, pimientos, chopped cabbage, green pepper, little cider vinegar, and then that's all like in a jello, and then it's plopped onto mayonnaise or a boiled salad dressing. So I was like, I want to do a gelled dish, but I don't want to throw away food. I want to make it good. So hopefully this will be good. Here's my plan. I've got the recipe written down here. It's really simple. It's truly simple. So it's just 2 cans of full-fat coconut milk, 1.5 teaspoons of agar powder, a 1/4 cup of maple syrup, a teaspoon of vanilla extract, a pinch of salt, and a tablespoon of coconut oil. But first, we have to oil this. I hope this works. It's just going to be like a big white fish. It's going to be a little brownish because I'm using maple syrup. And then I'm going to make like a raspberry sauce. No, oh no, I let the raspberries get too old. They got old on them. We're doing blueberries. Blueberries. Yeah, I'm gonna make a kind of a blueberry lime sauce, I think. Why am I opening this? A blueberry lime sauce. It's just gonna be kind of like a, yeah, it's gonna be like blueberry. It's gonna be like this white fish. Blueberry lime. That Lucille Ball was born in 1911. It's a long time ago. And where was she born? I keep forgetting where she was born because she kept lying and saying that she was, when she became famous, she lied and said she was from Butte, Montana, because she thought that just sounded more glamorous. Yeah, so she was born in Jamestown, Celeron, New York in 1911. Kind of a wild childhood. It was marked by tragedy, a lot of tragedy and adversity, but love too. Like, there was lots of love and things that you won't believe. Like, there were like so many things that parents wouldn't be able to get away with now that they got away with back then. But also, parents didn't have the support necessarily as well as we do now. Like, if you ended up like being a single mother, you were kind of screwed, if you didn't have a lot of family help. And that's exactly what happened to Lucille's mom. She was widowed when Lucille was only about 4 years old. So she was widowed in 1915. Like, she only remembers her dad like on the day that he died, but she somehow remembers that she had a good relationship with him, that she loved him. He played with her a lot. Like, there was a lot of, what is the word? I want roundhouse, no, not roundhousing, but horseplay. But then he got typhoid fever and he died. And on the day that he died, I guess a bird flew into the house. And she associated that with his death, with that trauma. From that point on, she couldn't handle birds. Like, she couldn't handle any bird motifs. She was like just really freaked out about birds. She had a total bird phobia because of what happened. In fact, in their house in Chatsworth, they were redesigning it, and she spent a ton of money on this wallpaper. I think that it came from far away. I can't remember exactly. I just kind of remember the story, but she got this wallpaper, and it was very exotic and very expensive, and she put it up, and she realized that there was a kind of a layer, like a faint bird motif, and she took it down immediately and threw it away. This is like very expensive wallpaper, and she was still kind of like, even though she was famous and making good money, she was still kind of conservative with her money. Like, she was kind of a penny pincher. Like, this goulash that we're making is definitely, most certainly, Depression era food. Anyway, so her dad died, and her mom was single. I can't talk and walk and all that at the same time. Let's open up our cans of coconut. We need 2 cans. So her mom was a single mother, and they had a little brother too. Or she had a little brother named Fred, and she loved Fred. She totally took care of him. I don't know where Fred was in this situation, but her mom had to go to work because she didn't have any money. So she went to go work at a boarding house. I think she just did like domestic work there, and it was kind of in the neighborhood. She didn't know what to do with Lucy all day, so So this is like a very fatty coconut. You want the full fat coconut milk. And so she didn't know what to do with Lucy. Maybe she had Fred with her because Fred was significantly younger, but Lucy was always incredibly active. She's just a wild child. So her mom had a clothesline in the backyard. and put a harness on Lucille and attached her to the clothesline. And it was basically like a dog run. And Lucille was just attached to this clothesline for hours on end. I mean, it sounds completely abusive, but what was her mother to do? Like, she didn't have daycare, and the neighbors were in on it too. Like, they weren't upset. They weren't calling the police, or they weren't calling social services. And I guess it was kind of a busy street because there were people like passing by, and Lucille would convince the passersby that she accidentally got hooked up on this clothesline and she needed help to get off. That's one story. That's what Lucy said, I think. Lucille said. But I also heard that she just slipped her harness. I don't know. Lucille liked to embellish. So it's kind of hard sometimes to know with her, like, what is the truth and what is not. You know, she's a storyteller. She's a performer. Get out. And so she would get out and she would just start playing and doing whatever she wanted. And the neighbors would actually go find her mother and say she's out again. And then her mom would like run out of the boarding house in her apron and everything. And she would go gather up Lucille and put her back on the clothesline. So we need about a 1/4 cup of maple syrup. I think that's about a 1/4 cup. And a pinch of salt. Sea salt. And 1/2 teaspoons of agar. I don't have a teaspoon. So I'm just gonna, I think that's about 1.5 teaspoons, would you say? Maybe a little bit more. Okay. So I'm turning on the burner. You're gonna put vanilla in there too, but I like to put vanilla in a little later to preserve the flavor. So her grandpa had a shop. I think he was a butcher. It was kind of like a grocery store. I guess her mom convinced him to let Lucille stay at this store instead of, you know, putting her on a dog run. So she would stay at the store and she would entertain his customers all day. And her grandpa was like super eccentric. Like, he was just kind of a wild guy. He used to take her to vaudeville plays and stuff like that. And that's where she really got like her interest in that kind of physical comedy that she does. And of course, a lot of the movies back then, like Buster Keaton, who was actually a really good friend of hers, but he was a few years older. I mean, he was like 20 years older, I think. But he was in the silent films, the physical comedy. Like, she loved that. She grew up on that. I think it was her brother said that he would catch her in the mirror, like just making faces and seeing like just being very physically expressive and just kind of practicing. She would do that at a very young age. Her mother married this Swedish guy, or at least his parents were Swedish. They were Swedish and really puritanical. And they're very, very religious, super religious. And they believed like there was only virtue in suffering. You know, they didn't believe in pleasure or any of that. They just took like it really far. So when her mother married this man, Lucille and Fred were very excited to have a father. You know, and so they approached him and they're like, "Are you going to be our father now?" And he was like, "No, don't call me father. Not your father. I can't remember his name. I don't think we need to remember his name." But yeah, he just didn't want to be their dad or even pretend to be or anything like that. He just didn't care. He wanted to take her mom away. I think they might have went to California. I can't remember. He just wanted to take her away. And so he did. And his parents took Lucille. I think Freddie went somewhere else, but I'm doing this very casual. I'm not doing the whole document. We're just talking. So, this is just like we're friends talking. So I might be off. Right. Anyway, she lived with his parents for a while, and they were so strict, and they were mean, and they wouldn't let her have any time for herself. She was just like always working. And if she, did her thing in the mirror, she would get punished. And they were really hard, and they were cold. Like, they weren't very loving. So go figure. Go figure that her her stepdad, wasn't very warm either. And I imagine he's probably not the warmest husband as well. So she lived with him for a while. But the thing with Lucille is that she had this attitude of gratitude. And even though it was a really tough time and she got punished a lot and they were cold and she hated it, she credits them for her discipline. She credits them for like so much of her success later on. I mean, maybe she even learned the gratitude from them. I don't know, but just because her mom wasn't much of a disciplinarian. And so she kind of had both worlds, where she had like the freedom that she got from her mother, when she wasn't on a clothesline. And then she, got that discipline at a very young age from her Swedish grandparents. But eventually they all ended up living together, not with the grandparents, but her grandparents and her mom. I think they got divorced and everybody got to live in one house. And the way that Lucille talked about it, because I'm getting a lot of this from her autobiography, that was just like the best time in her life. Like that's what she wanted. All her life, she just wanted her family to do well, be happy, to be together. This is like the thing that she wanted all her life. Like this is something that motivated her, was just like that family togetherness. So that was very, very happy for her until there was someone in the family. Maybe it was Fred. I can't remember. But he wanted a gun. It was like really popular back then, for kids to have like rifles and stuff. He wanted a gun. I think it was Fred. I can't remember which kid. It was some kid in the family who lived at the house, wanted a gun. The grandpa actually got that kid a gun. And they had a bunch of kids, like family members, like a cousin over who was a girl, a young girl, just a bunch of kids. And he was showing them how to work the gun, like how to clean it, like safety things. And the cousin, the little girl, was going to shoot it. But then they saw that the neighbor's kid came over and was kind of peering, like was kind of lurking around. He wasn't invited. Lucille's grandpa said, okay, it's okay if you're here, but you need to stay there. And you need to, you don't move around, don't run around the yard or anything. So the kid was doing that. And the little girl was going to shoot for the first time. And she lifted up her gun, and all of a sudden, the neighbor's kid's mom called the neighbor's kid, and he got up and he ran across the yard, and the little girl shot him. And he didn't die, but he was in the hospital for a very, very long time, and I think he was paralyzed. He didn't die then. He was paralyzed. It was just awful. It was just absolutely awful. And he got sued. He got sued over this. It was terrible. The lawyers said like to give his house to another family member so that he couldn't get sued for it. Okay, it's boiling now. And we need to do this for about 2 to 3 minutes, I think. Yeah, 2 to 3 minutes to activate the agar. And we don't want to do it too much because I think it can break. Anyway, they tried to save the house by giving it to a family member, but that didn't really work, and they ended up getting sued for it. So her grandpa lost everything. They were living at his house, so they all lost the house. It was just terribly, terribly tragic. I'm going to turn this down a little bit. I'm going to take it. Oh, wait, we're supposed to take it to a simmer. So it was like boil. Yeah, sorry. We're taking it to a simmer. Yeah, now it's just simmering. Yeah, so they were on the struggle bus for a while. Mom somehow made it happen. She wasn't ever wealthy or anything, but she made sure that the kids had what they needed. So when Lucille was like 14, she started dating like the bad boy. His name was, Johnny DeVito. Johnny DeVita. rumor around town was that his dad was the mafia. Not the mafia, but part of the mafia. And this would actually be confirmed later because his dad would get killed because he was part of the mafia. But she hung out with Johnny DeVita for the longest time. Like for a long time. He was much older than her. I think it was like, she was 14. She was 14 and he was like 23 or 24. He was older. Like, and another thing that would not be okay today. He was a pedo. He wasn't a very good influence. She was probably having sex with him. They were wild. I know like later when she was doing her acting thing, she would come back and she would still be hanging out with him. So she was with him for a long time. I think they were going to get married. They were talking about it. But they would like fight in public. And she sometimes had black eyes. There was a time that when she was coming back from her, well, I'll get into that later. I will get into that later. So she's around 14. She's hanging out with him. I think her mom wanted to get her away from him. And so, okay, we've got 2 minutes here. I think this is good. It doesn't, I don't know. We'll see if this turns out well. I don't know. I've never worked with agar before, and I don't have a lot of faith right now. So I'm going to put in the vanilla. Like, it feels really loose. Put about a teaspoon of vanilla. And I'm going to put in a little bit of coconut oil so that it's like glossy. Although there's so much oil in this already. There's so much coconut oil already in this. I got this recipe from ChatGPT, so who knows? It might totally flop. It might completely, totally flop. I think I'm going to put in a little bit more maple syrup, though. So if it doesn't set, at least we'll have a creme anglaise, I think. We need a level surface. Level. There is this like number here because I got this from a thrift store and I can't get it off. So hopefully we won't be poisoned by it. Hopefully it doesn't transfer to the panna cotta and the fish has a brand on it. Okay, we need to get it up there. I don't know if anybody... Oh, this is not working. Ouch, it's hot. Okay, I was trying to get the fin. But look, it's pouring out. Oh, no. Okay, that's... Were these ever meant to be used? So we're going to leave this here on the counter for about half an hour, and then we're going to put it in the fridge for about an hour. Well, longer, because we're going to have it for dinner tonight, and it's only like 3:30. And, you know, I use this copper mold. I don't know if anybody ever used the copper molds or if they just went up on the wall, but I looked it up, and you wouldn't want to use an all copper mold because the copper could leach into it. You know, and that could be a problem. You definitely don't want to bake with it. But mine has like a nickel lining, so that's supposed to be okay. So I'll put the rest of it here. It smells really good. It smells like vanilla. Let me know in the comments if like you or your parent ever actually used one of these copper molds. Like, you know, like not just had it on the wall. My mom had the same fish mold. It just stayed on the wall. Okay, so I only have a little bit of blueberry. I don't even know how much this is. I'm going to do the blueberry sauce. Let's see how many. Oh, I have almost a cup. Not bad. Okay, so for the blueberry sauce, we just need a cup of blueberries, 2 to 3 tablespoons of maple syrup. We'll do 2 since I don't have like a full cup of blueberries. I'm just gonna turn it on. I'm gonna kind of basically we're frying blueberries in maple syrup. And then I'm going to take some cornstarch, or like a teaspoon. So I made a slurry with about oh no, never mind. That's the panna cotta. We're making a slurry with a couple teaspoons. We just blend the cornstarch until smooth with a couple tablespoons of water. We throw it in there. Cook it until, I'm just gonna mash. No, I'm not gonna, I don't know. I'm gonna put more water in there. I'm just gonna put more water in there. I'm just gonna cook it until the blueberries break up. So her mom, I think, wanted to get Lucille away from Johnny DeVita, and she knew that Lucille was a performer. She probably was seeing that something was being lost in that relationship, like she was losing her little girl, maybe. I mean, this is kind of how I see it. And she wanted a good future for Lucille. So I think she was 14. So this was 1926, 27. Yeah, so she's about 15. She's about 15. Her mom paid for her to go to New York City to the John Murray Anderson School of Theater alongside with Betty Davis. She was overwhelmed. She just lacked theatrical talent. She was just, it's just not working out for her. And they even told her that she didn't have talent. Like this is not her direction. Like she should do something else with her life. Jokes on them. So she dropped out within the first term. And I think she stayed in New York. And I think she got some jobs, like some modeling jobs. I can't remember. I don't want to get too in depth. I know that she was really poor for a while. And so we're going to bring this book back in. So she was so poor and she was also really skinny. This was another issue for her with her modeling and her acting. Like sometimes she just didn't get things because she was just too skinny. She just didn't have the figure. And she wasn't eating because she was poor. So she would actually steal ketchup, and then she would go back to where she was living and she would mix it with water and make tomato soup, what she called tomato soup. But as I was looking in this book, emergency cream of tomato soup. Do you see that? This one's made with a cup of thin cream or 1 cup condensed milk, diluted 1/3 and 3 tablespoons of ketchup. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is what her mom probably, might be what they ate as well when they had to. We're not talking Depression era yet, but we're getting there. So at some point she's modeling. I think she's modeling. She's doing like a few things here and there, but she wants to stay. She wants to try and develop her career. She's just a kid. But she started just having real problems with her legs, and she didn't know what was happening. And then she like lost the use of her legs, so she had to come home. She said that she had rheumatoid arthritis. I don't think it's rheumatoid arthritis. I think it's something more like rheumatic fever. I mean, that's what it sounds like to me. More like rheumatoid arthritis is she would have had it later in life, right? But she got over it. But she did come home. She was and that's when she was hanging out with Johnny DeVita. That's the time when they started. He got a house. I think he got an apartment for her. Maybe they kind of lived together. This is when they were fighting public. I think she was a very passionate person, and she probably, what was modeled to her was probably a very volatile kind of relationship. That's my guess. Just passion infused. And that was her relationship with Johnny DeVita. And that's when she had the black eyes, and I don't know, not great. I'm so glad that we don't accept the same things now that we did then. And I hope we never go back to that. Use lime juice in her sauce. And I'm also going to use some of the zest. Do I have my zester? Anyways, she gets a gig as the Chesterfield cigarette girl. That's a big deal. Like, that was a really big kind of campaign. It got a lot of eyeballs on it, and that got her known. And that is how she ended up at MGM in Hollywood. And that's when her acting career began. This looks pretty good. I'm not sure about this fish. So here are some of the panna cotta, the stuff that didn't fit into the fish. And it's setting up. It's definitely setting up. Look at that. That looks pretty good. I'm gonna try it. It's not bad. I shouldn't have put the coconut oil in it. Like, there's an aftertaste from that coconut oil. It tastes a little wrong. I don't like it. Lucille Ball was so much more popular than some of the other women I've done biographies on. Like, I've done Fannie Lou Hamer, Dolores Huerta. I totally thought that Gertrude Stein and Alice B. Toklas would be really popular, and it has been one of the more popular videos. But I put Lucille Ball out there, and I had so many comments. Like, people love her. They love her so much. She's been such a formative part of any Gen X life, really, and Boomer life. And people just absolutely love her. And I was wondering, why do they love her so much? And I came to this, I just had an epiphany. Because I'm always thinking about what it means to be a woman and how to appeal to women in terms of, like, my videos and stuff. And I get frustrated sometimes that it seems like it's hard for me to present someone like Fannie Lou Hamer and garner interest. And I don't know why. I mean, my thought was like, oh, it just feels like school. So I thought maybe that was the case. But then something dawned on me. Like, I know that a lot of women, they love, like, beauty. They love, like, get ready with me's. All people like content that helps them succeed, helps them gain status. And so oftentimes for men, that means how to get rich or how to get women. But for women, we've been taught in our culture to attract. But the boys complain about this all the time. Do content. They complain that girl can just show up and be beautiful and she gets a ton of subscribers or followers. Whereas a boy has to do something, has to kind of do a little song and dance. Girls just show up. And that is because we're objectified. You know, we're treated like objects, you know. We're acted upon. This has been kind of how we've been encultured. Is that the word? How we've been conditioned. So we decorate ourselves and we turn ourselves into beautiful objects so that we attract our subject. And men have been subjectified and taught that they have to do things in order to get attention. So women attract attention just by being beautiful or interesting, cute, you know, there's something about them. But women tend to attract attention and boys have to do things for attention, which is why you'll see young boys who are always like, look at me, you know, and this is because this is part of our conditioning. And young boys on social media are jealous of the girls who just show up. Okay, so this is the thing in our culture. Women are taught that we are to attract. This is going to be important to the Lucille Ball story in a second. Lucille Ball, she was very attractive. She's very glamorous, and she could go back and forth between being very glamorous or being more of a performer, as someone who is doing something for attention. So she kind of did both things. But early on in her career, she played by the rules. She did modeling, she did lots of B films, and she was very beautiful and very attractive, but she said that she could never compete with the other actresses. She couldn't really compete because she always like came off harder or like a cigarette girl. She didn't have that je ne sais quoi that the other actresses had. And I think this actually contributed to her not, while she was successful, I mean, enough for her and Desi to own that ranch house out in California. Like, she made good money, but she never got top billing until something changed. And I think it's because she was trying to be that woman who just attracted attention and was successful in that way. And it was repressing her talent, like her true talent, what made her incredibly magical. And she was so magical. She was so magical. Like, I'm almost like in tears because she was really amazing. And I really need to get started with this food.
Okay. I'm editing and I realize that I didn't bring this back. I didn't answer my question. Why do people prefer Lucille Ball to Fannie Lou Hamer, Lucretia Mott? And I think it's because she's pretty, and we want self-help. We want to be under the influence of people who are pretty. We want to be in their presence. We feel like this will raise our status. So we care more about like pretty women versus like women who really changes the world. It's a problem for me.
We've got our fish gelling in the fridge. And we're going to make our goulash. Actually, it's also known as the LBS, the Lucille Ball Special. Like, mid-century women were making this, like my mother. It was probably like in a Women's Day magazine or something like that. But we're going to do it different because her recipe is extremely simple. And remember how I said she used to make it for like tons and tons of people? Her recipe was basically 2 pounds of beef, a can of tomatoes, 2 bunches of green onions, and 2 bunches of green onions, 1 bell pepper. I think that was it. So I guess back in the 30s, kind of 40s, green onions, like scallions, these were trending. Like, they were really cool. They were gourmet. And it was also like a really quick meal fix to just chop these up and put them in something instead of like sauteing onions. I don't think that this is going to be the best. So I am going to saute onions. We're not using these. These are a little sad. I'm still going to keep it simple, but I am going to put some spices in it. So I'm going to saute this big, huge onion. And since it's the end of the week and I want to use everything in our fridge, like, why else do like a stew? It's to use up everything. I have some cabbage. So I'm going to saute cabbage and onion together. And I have 2 bell peppers. We're going to do 2 bell peppers. And I have some instead of 1, but this is a pretty small one, So we're going to do 2 of those. I'm actually going to put garlic in there. I'm going to put a little spice, some cumin, and you can't have goulash without paprika. So we're going to have paprika. And I was going to do like a spaghetti squash for me, but you know what? I discovered that I have like pad thai noodles, which are rice, and I can have them. And I'll cook those a little bit, and then I will kind of put it in with the goulash, which will help kind of thicken it too. So let's give it a go. We're going to talk about Lucille's career in Hollywood, but mostly not her career. We are going to talk about her career, but we're heading towards the I Love Lucy era. but we're going to talk about how she met Desi Arnaz. Oh, fun fact about them. So Lucille's middle name is Desiree, and Desi, his name, he's got a longer name, but it means desire too. They both have the name that means desire. Isn't that sweet? Okay, so Lucille Ball makes her way to Hollywood via Samuel Goldwyn. I guess it's not MGM, it's just Samuel Goldwyn. She stars as one of Samuel Goldwyn's Golden Girls in a movie called Roman Sandals. And this begins her film career. Okay, I don't have the notes right. It says like this begins her film career with RKO as a chorus girl and B-movie leading lady, but but that doesn't make sense. So yeah, she started working for Samuel Goldwyn, and she ended up with RKO. Later, she became known as the queen of the B's because she was just doing B films. That's what she was like. She started making really good money, but she was never like, it didn't seem like she was ever going to be a star, you know, not at the rate that she was going. Ooh, I'm not cutting these like in a safe way, and that's problematic. She doesn't meet Desi Arnaz. She doesn't meet Desi until like 1940, and she's on doing a B movie called Too Many Girls, and he's like in the movie, you know, playing his bongos, and he wasn't a big deal back then at all. There were plenty of other like big deals in this big deal guys on the set, but she just totally fell in love. They just fell in love with each other. Like, she dated a lot of very important men. She had a lot of marriage proposals, but she was not like one to marry for status or any of that. She didn't care about that at all. And growing up, she was also really expected, like her and Fred were expected to be self-sufficient. So she was also that. She didn't have that, like, she didn't think that she needed to be taken care of. She was used to taking care of things. And it's kind of part of the reason why, you know, why she was so successful was because she had that trauma in her childhood, her dad dying, then losing the house. And I think that made her really want to be in charge of everything. And of course, with her family, prioritizing self-sufficiency, we had that. She was also always trying to get attention, so that might be one of the reasons why she was such a performer. Anyway, so she didn't really she'd always dreamt of the soft life. She wanted that. Like she said she wanted that. She said she wanted to be just kind of like a wife and a mother. But her personality was not that. Like, her personality was fix it, get things done, and when there was a problem, deal with it. And not just that, she's kind of an adventurer. You know, if she wanted to do something, she would do it. So she was just so much of a doer. And we began this video talking about, you know, how women are conditioned to be passive, and that actually becomes part of their attractiveness, unfortunately. And I think this is the thing that kind of made her a little less attractive at the time. It's not something that, I think we should all be doers. I don't think passivity should be part of our attractiveness. But, you know, at the time, it was like that. So she met she met Desi Arnaz on the set of Girls, Girls, Girls. And they fell madly in love. They were opposites. Nobody thought it would last because Desi Arnaz, he came from an aristocratic family in Cuba, but the war crushed it destroyed their wealth. So he had a traumatic upbringing too, where he was, you know, kind of a prince, and then he was not. and they had to come to America to flee communism. Oh, I totally forgot to mention too. So when she was, when she was living back in Savoring with her grandpa, and I mentioned how eccentric he was, her grandpa used to host like socialists and communists in their house, and he would have these meetings, and he was really, really into it. He was very passionate about it. And one day, he told Lucille and Fred, her little brother, that it would please him very much if they would register to be communist. They would register for the Communist Party. So they did. They did just to please their grandpa. That was the only reason why. Okay, so let's fast forward again. So Ricky Desjardins, he I'm never gonna get this right. He came to the United States. They were fleeing communism, and they fell in love. They got married. I think they got married in like 3 months. If that's not right, I'll correct it. And they bought that ranch house in Chatsworth, and they were very happy. Like they were very playful together. There's lots of video where they're just goofing off. They're just goofing around. They were just really fun. But they had kind of separate lives because of their work. He would be gone for a long time while she was, at home under contract with RKO or MGM or, whatever. And he had trouble staying faithful to his wedding vows. And, it was just, they loved each other so much. But they were kind of opposites. They were both very passionate. He was used to freedom. I think they fought a lot. They had lots of parties. It was just, they were kind of wild, They were kind of wild. But she always thought that if they could work together, that would make things so much better. That she could just kind of hold on to them. They could have their family life. Also, they wanted a baby so bad, but she was not getting pregnant. And they tried to get pregnant for like a decade, and it was just, not happening. Lucille was doing B films. She was making money. They could afford the house out in, Chatsworth. And she was not becoming the superstar that she wanted to be. And she was starting to kind of give up on that and focusing more on finding a way for her and Ricky to be together so that they could work together. So she was moving towards the direction of I Love Lucy. She thought that would solve their problems. I'm not doing a very good mise en place. I'm doing like everything in their place. I'm kind of doing what would be the opposite of that. Everything all over the place. So she started doing radio, doing this show called My Favorite Husband. And it was pretty much like the prototype for I Love Lucy. I think this is when she stopped, because it was radio, she no longer had to be like the beauty queen anymore. She could focus on how funny she was and her acting. It's where she got her voice, Lucy's voice, where she developed Lucy's voice, because in reality, Lucille Ball had a kind of a low, no nonsense voice. She was low. She had a low, raspy voice. She was, quite serious. Like people who knew her didn't say she was like all that funny. She was just very serious. She was a very serious, no nonsense kind of person with a low voice. But Lucy, on I Love Lucy, and her character in the show, My Favorite Husband, had a high voice. Kind of, it was like the beginning of the ditzy redhead, right? She was doing that for a while. I think she was doing that for a couple of years. They started Desilu Productions, and they wanted to take My Favorite Husband and make it a TV show. Like TV was getting really big at this time. This was a change in tech. How now we're going from internet to AI. Back then it was like movies to TV. Like TV was like the place where like people who weren't successful in movies went to. Like, it wasn't, what's the word? I can't think of the word. It wasn't high status. It wasn't like, I don't know. It was sort of like people who couldn't do well in the movies did TV. But they leveraged that. So she wanted to, I think she was talking to some investors, and they liked the idea of her doing I Love Lucy, but they didn't like the idea of Desi Arnaz being her partner. She's like, they said, like, who is going to believe that, you know, this white redheaded woman is with this Cuban guy? And she said, well, he is my husband. And they'll believe it, like, because this is this is true. This is reality. And so in 1951, I think it was 1951. In 1951, they did their first I Love Lucy. I think it was on a Tuesday, and it was weekly. It was with a live audience. I remember Ethel and Fred Mertz, Vivian. I think her name, the other actress is Vivian, and I can't remember his name. Kind of like the perfect foil for Lucy and Desi. They were, well, anyway, okay. So yeah, so this aired like the first time in 1951, and it was such like a hit. Like, it showcased all her talent. People realized how genius she was. Like, she was a genius. Her physical comedy was unbelievable. Her acting, unbelievable. You know, she put a lot of work into it. She was very much a perfectionist, but that show did so well. And it was kind of like the first of its kind. They invented the sitcom, and there was kind of an element of like reality TV now, because they were married in real life and on screen. And it kind of gave, like, I think the audience a sense of like just really kind of knowing them. It really, they just, it was just the best show. It was the best show, the most popular show. It was number one, I think, for like 5 years or 4 or 5 years. It was just the best show. And it made her really, really famous. And they eventually moved, you know, to Beverly Hills. And I've seen their house in Beverly Hills. I was living in New Mexico with my husband and our kids. And we went out to California to see my folks. And we went to Hollywood just for fun. Something I would have never done living in California. And we did one of those like Hollywood star tours. So it was like a tour in Beverly Hills, and we could see all the celebrity houses. And we saw Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz's house. We saw their house, and it's amazing. It's so amazing. We're coming to the premise. I think what happened, what made her so successful, was that she leaned into who she actually was, which is kind of a doer, a performer, not someone who is just passively attractive. Although she did that well, but she couldn't compete, you know, with the best of the best. And she just totally went full on into her role, into her physical comedy. Like, there were no women doing what she did at that time. And her mentors were like Buster Keaton and Charlie Chaplin. And it seems to me that she came from a time much further on than them, you know, because she was in the 50s and they were in the 20s. If you really think about it, there's only 30 years difference. It seems like such, like, the 20s and the 50s just seem so like different times, but they really weren't. I mean, I'm 54 now. 30 years ago. 30 years ago was the 90s. Unbelievable. Okay, so we need to get this stuff sauteing. I'm gonna turn this on to medium. I'm gonna cook the vegetables first, because I don't want this to overcook, because it gets a little weird when you overcook beyond meat. So about maybe 3 tablespoons of, I'm using avocado oil, but you can use like olive oil or whatever. So yeah, so they finally got to work together, which was great. And that lasted for a while. And she finally did get pregnant. I think she was 42 when I think she was 40 when she got pregnant, and she had her second child at 42. I'll correct that if I'm wrong. But yeah, she finally got pregnant at like 40. And did you see that I Love Lucy? Did you see? Okay, so a little thing about pregnancy on TV back in the 50s. You could not say pregnant back then. It was not considered indecent. In fact, this on staff of like a show like I Love Lucy, they actually had like a priest. Like they had a priest to kind of look over the scripts and stuff to make sure that things were decent. And this happened on a lot of shows. That's what they did. So they couldn't say like pregnancy. They had to say, what do they have to say? They expecting, I think, like she's expecting or things like that. They couldn't, like in I Love Lucy, remember they had separate beds? I put some salt in there. I'm going to put some cumin right now. Just a sprinkling. I might add some more later too. But you know how they had separate beds? Because there couldn't be any insinuation that they were having sex, even though they were married. There was no pregnancy. So when she did get pregnant, she thought that was the end of the show. Like they were going to have to stop it. But they decided to actually go with the story of her, of them creating a family, which is really, it was the first of its kind. But, so did you see that I Love Lucy, where Ricky Ricardo is playing in his band, Babalu, and he gets a note from someone who says, like from a woman who says, I want to tell my husband that I'm pregnant, but that I'm expecting a baby. So could you sing the song to him? And that would be the way that I actually announced that we're having a baby. And so the song they want him to sing is, I think he's like, my baby is having a baby. Something like that. So he goes around and he goes to every couple and he sings. He's singing the song, but they're like, it's not us, it's not us. And then there's just Lucy just sitting by herself, and he's like, oh, hi, Lucy. And it just dawns on him, it's her. She's having the baby. And it was such a special show. They were crying. It was so sweet. Sorry. It was so sweet. When I spend time learning about these stories, and I kind of start getting deep, here I am crying, but it was so sweet. It was just so beautiful. Life is a little hard these days. It's just, it's so nice. I put some just regular paprika. Put a little bit more. It's so nice just remembering these beautiful moments. Because it was so hard for them to get pregnant, and because they couldn't mention it on TV, because there was just so many, everything was cloaked in mystery. It made these moments, it seems to me, like a little bit more special than they're treated today. So I don't know what I'm saying, but I'm putting all the vegetables in here now. It just feels like, and I haven't done the garlic yet though. I'm going to do a couple garlic, but I'm putting all the vegetables first. I don't want to put the garlic in right away because it tends to burn. But I don't know. It's just, we don't get excited about things like that like we used to. We're just so distracted by so many things. There's just so many things vying for our attention that we don't pay attention to like one TV show and its characters like we used to. Or at least I don't. I know people are talking about Love Island a lot. I haven't seen it, but people are really into Love Island. So maybe that's happening. I don't know. But I don't see that. I don't see that personally. Lucille Ball was the first woman to head up a major TV studio. By this time, they're making millions. You know, they're making millions, taking big risks. Desi took a lot of risks. Like I think he's the one who bought the studio. She was much more conservative. It's kind of one of the things that led to the demise of their marriage. You know, I don't think he really ever stopped cheating on her and stuff. Like they had the kind of relationship where they'd break up all the time. They'd get in big fights, and then they would break. And then when they made up, it was like amazing. Yeah, so they lasted a couple more years when they ended up getting divorced. So I'm going to be...
Did you try again?
Stop it, Suri. I'll put the recipe down in the description below. I'm going to just let this brown a little bit more. I'll come back when we add the tomato. And then I'll unmold the fish and display that. And then we will, when my husband comes home, we'll have dinner and let you know what we think about everything. Okay, I'm just going to put the meat directly in here. The Beyond Beef. We're only using 1 pound. I'm just browning this. I think I need a little bit more paprika. Lucille Ball Special. So we're just tasting as we go. I'm putting a little bit more cumin in here. I find that Beyond Beef to be almost like sweet. A little Aleppo. Just for a little spice. And I'm just going to throw this in here. Wow. Crushed tomatoes, they're very liquidy, almost like tomato juice. And we're just going to let this simmer, I guess, for like 20 minutes. And we'll put our noodles in. Are you ready for the fish? Okay. I think it's been an hour. Let's see, it's very firm. So I've been kind of advised to kind of loosen the sides maybe. Maybe it needs a water bath to come out. But I've also read that like when you do turn it over like you mean it, you know? I'm wondering what my husband will think of this. Oh, I don't know. Let's see. Oh. That didn't work. Okay, let's try it again. Ah, yes! Oh, Lord. Wow, look at that. Oh, don't mess it up. Oh my God. Look at that. Now, where should I put the... I don't know. I guess I should just kind of pull it around. Oops. I don't want to lose its shape. Oh boy. Okay, that was... I don't know. I mean, that looks like a massacre. This is amazing. We'll put a little lime zest. Oh my gosh. Okay. The traditional herbs that you might put in a goulash is like caraway, marjoram, bay leaf. I don't have any of that, but I do have oregano, which is quite similar to marjoram. So I'm going to put a little oregano in it. I do have caraway. But maybe my husband doesn't really like caraway. I'm just crunching it in my hands and then putting just a little bit in there. I think my husband doesn't like caraway because of the seeds get in his teeth. So I'm going to use my mortar and pestle and grind them. Oh, I love the smell of caraway. He loves rye bread, so it can't be the flavor that he doesn't like. It's just the seeds in his teeth. Let's see, maybe we need more. Oh my gosh. A little bit more. That's really good flavor in there. That is so good. Don't skip the caraway. It's so good. That caraway makes all the difference. Yummy. Okay, so my husband's going to be here pretty soon, and we're just going to wrap this up. I am using pad thai rice noodles, and these are really easy. I am going to bring 4 to 5 quarts of water to a boil, add noodles, and boil for 4 to 5 minutes. And then I'm just going to mix them up with the Lucille Ball's special goulash. And yeah, I'm not going to talk about Lucille Ball anymore because I don't want to talk about okay, eventually she divorces Desi Arnaz and she marries someone else. I can't remember his name. I'll put it in the newsletter. And they're happy. They're really happy. They live in the Beverly Hills mansion together. And then there's the sunset. He's, the kind of dependable, not so wild kind of guy. And they grow old, and she wins some kind of achievement, a lifetime achievement award. Desi Arnaz and Lucy, they continue to love each other. They always loved each other. Always. Oh, I didn't mention the communism part. That was important. Totally forgot about that. So I Love Lucy was really taken off, and then we get the Red Scare, McCarthyism. And because Lucy registered to be a communist back in 1938, because of her grandpa, she is now at risk of being blacklisted. Like Charlie Chaplin was blacklisted. Charlie Chaplin had to leave the country. To be blacklisted because of communism, it was the end of your career. It was done. You're just done. Done. Lots of people just completely lost their livelihoods over it. So she was visited by the FBI, and they were really, really freaked out. The whole staff of I Love Lucy, they just thought it was done. The show was done. The most popular show ever. Done. They also knew that she wasn't communist, So they fought that. Desi Arnaz gave a speech, if I can recall it right. So it was 1936 when she registered to be a communist, not 1938. And to please her grandpa. I want you to meet my favorite wife, my favorite redhead. And then he says, in fact, that's the only red thing about her. And even that is not legitimate. Which I thought was pretty funny. But they were able to convince the authorities that she was not a communist, and the show was able to go on. And then a few years later, she and Desi divorced. She marries someone else, but they love each other. Desi, they're like soulmates, you know what I mean? But soulmates, but maybe not earthmates, right? Yeah. So we'll finish this up. We'll get the noodles in there, and then we're going to see what my husband thinks about our fish panna cotta and if he enjoys it. To be honest, I don't think it tastes all that good. So we'll see how he likes it. He can be really squeamish though. So I'm hoping that this doesn't make him nauseous for the rest of the night.
I'm okay.
What do you think of it, Michael?
I think it's good.
Say something that, like Ricky Ricardo would say.
Lucy!
I love Mikey. See what I made for you, hon?
Oh, Steph. What the fuck? Are you shitting me?
Center. Just a little piece.
Oh. Oh. No. Oh, good Lord.
Yum. Yum. Come on. It looks like halibut. It's really good. So good. Oh my god. You gotta try it.
Oh.
There was something leafy in there. I don't know why. I'm trying another bite. Mmm. Mmm. Holy cow.
I feel like we're on podcast. It's 2 layered.
It's 2 layers.
It's got 2 layers. It's
I
got
don't know
like...
why it's got 2 layers.
I don't either.
It's magic.
What's the other layer?
It's just coconut milk and agar, and maple syrup and vanilla. Just try it. Just do it. Just do it. You need some more. Is it good?
No.
It's kind of terrible, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, what does it taste like?
It tastes like coconut jello. Is this a prank?
It's an experiment. Would I go through all this just to prank you?
Yeah. Absolutely. I love you, dear. I'm glad you cooked for me. That sucked.
I love you.
I love you too.